Shalom. I would like to give all honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Wakakwadash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to all you sincere Akim, push his word across the four corners of the world. Just another news update through the spirit, the power, and the vibration of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. And I have an article from naturalnews.com, and the title says, Disney is on the verge of financial collapse, leak memo reveals. This was published on November the 21st, 2022. And it says, the multinational mass media and entertainment conglomerate Walt Disney is trapped on the edge and is about to fall into the dark pit of financial collapse, according to CEO Bob Chapek's memo to his top executives. According to the leaked memorandum, Disney has over $1.4 billion in operating losses for its streaming segment for the quarter that ended October the 1st, about $800 million more than a year earlier. There has also been a stock drop of around 39% for the year. This could possibly lead to huge employee layoffs. So America is codified within the scriptures as Babylon the Great, as one of its many codified names. And also is codified as spiritual Egypt, because when you read Revelation 11 chapter in the 8th verse, it goes into that city which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, because America imitates its values, traditions, and gods after these ancient kingdoms. And ancient Egypt was definitely one of them, which takes me to one of the end-time biblical prophecies mentioned in these last days, which is Isaiah 19:15. Neither should there be any work for Egypt. And again, Egypt is referencing to America. And we read Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, it goes into how the sound of the grinding is low. So no working, no grinding. And that's why you're seeing in today's news about all these different major corporations are talking about these financial declines are leading to huge employee layoffs. So neither should there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. All right, so back to the article. The company has implemented a targeted hiring freeze and limited business travel as part of a sweep cost-cutting move. It has also started reviewing workers for efficiency with plans to introduce swinging cuts as a means to make the radically downsized company more nimble. As we work through this evaluation process, we will look at every avenue of operations and labor to find savings, and we do anticipate some staff reductions as part of this review. I am fully aware this will be a difficult process for many of you and your teams. We are going to have to make tough and uncomfortable decisions, Chapek said in a correspondence obtained by Variety. He also mentioned the problem of macroeconomic factors, which he said was out of Disney's control. Meanwhile, News Punch pointed out how Chapek seemed to stay away from topics such as their steady supply of content that pushes far-left narratives and wokeism. Chapek also failed to mention the problem of pedophile rings involving Disney workers, which are now so prevalent within the organization that Florida law enforcement has started cracking jokes about the scourge, the website's bastard Dimitri wrote. Zero Hedge Tyler Durden also commented that it is not the macroeconomic factors out of their control that cause their collapse. It is, in fact, all the factors within their control, such as their refusal to produce content that consumers actually want. American audiences are done with leftist propaganda in their films and television and are now actively researching and avoiding any content that promotes woke ideology and social justice talking points. After around 5 years of consumers withholding their money, Disney is finally starting to feel the pain, Durden pointed out. And as that old saying goes, how the chicken's coming home to roost, which means that all the bad things that someone has done in the past now it's coming back to bite or hunt that particular individual. And in this case, this corporation known as Disney, which has a very dark past. That's why it's stated right here, Disney has been shamelessly feeding children with the LGBTQ propaganda. And this LGBTQ propaganda is one of those main ingredients of that Babylonian wine. And that's why it's stated in Revelation the 18th chapter and 3rd verse, how all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. So going back to Disney, which was founded by Walt Disney, he was an Edomite. He was also a 33rd degree Freemason. And that's why you have at the Disneyland Resort an exclusive and private membership club called Club 33, which traces back to Freemasonry. So he was an Edomite. He was a 33rd degree Freemason. he was a sodomite, and he was also a wizard. And there's well-documented information out there how within the 1960s, the CIA helped Walt Disney obtain the land for the Disney World estates. Because within the early 1960s, it was the local people within Central Florida, they were becoming very suspicious about someone buying up large parts of swamp lands in cash, and more so under various shell corporations or dummy accounts. And the whole time, it was the CIA buying it for Walt Disney. So Walt Disney, he used his Disneyland estates for MK Ultra mind control, human trafficking, occult rituals, doing sexual deviant acts. And it's also documented, you have researchers at the University of Central Florida, they have estimated that more than 100 kids go missing at Disney World every year, which fulfills the prophecy within Ezekiel the 28th chapter, how he should increase in his riches by his traffic. And you go into the word traffic, it goes into merchandise. And a part of Esau's major merchandise that he makes high profits off of is human trafficking. So within actuality, Disney has a very dark history to it. But to the common eye, when people think about Disney, Disneyland, Disney World, they think about a good old family trip where it consists of nothing but mirth, which means merriment, gladness, and excessive laughter. But that's not the case, because these financial declines are leading to huge employee layoffs within this major corporation called Disney. So through the Holy Spirit, this is nothing but foreshadowing things of what's coming to the most major corporation, America, also known as Babylon the Great, because America is indeed a corporation. So just like the glory days of Disney are starting to fade, it's the same case with America's glory days are starting to fade as well. That's why it stated in Revelation 18:23, and the light of a candle should shine no more at all in thee. So the mirth of the land is gone, which takes me right to the biblical prophecy mentioned in Isaiah, the 24th chapter, and start at the 10th verse. The city of confusion is broken down, and the city of confusion is referencing to America, also known as Babylon the Great. The Hebrew word for Babylon is Babal, which means chaos, disorder, and confusion, because you have the man of sin referencing to Esau, Edom, in that power seat of rulership. So everything is backwards within the society. So the city of confusion is broken down, every house is shut up, that no man may come in. And here's the point in verse 11. There is a crying for wine in the streets, all joy is darkened, the mirth of the land is gone. So that crying for wine in the streets is referring to how these people, and more so the 2/3 of our people, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, and Native Americans, are going to be trying to find the truth within these latter days. Because this wine is referencing to a true philosophy. And that's referring to the true word of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. And let's prove that right quick in Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, and start at verse 4. Behold, his soul, referencing to the son of perdition, Esau, Edom, which is lifted up, is not upright in him, because that which is crooked cannot be made straight. But the just shall live by his faith. And that's referring to the Israel of the Most High, the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. Verse 5. Yea, also because he, referencing again to Esau, Edom, transgressive by wine, meaning that he overstepped the boundaries or the limits of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. It's stated in the book of Psalm, the 50th chapter, the 17th verse, how he hated instruction and he casted the Most High's words behind him. So he comes up with his own policies, decrees, and different laws. And they are all totally adverse unto the ways of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. So he transgressed by wine. He is a proud man, neither keep it at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gather it unto him all nations, and heap it unto him all people. And this goes into his enterprise that he's trying to form in the ways of this NWO, Novus Ordo Seclorum. So he transgressed by wine. And let's get another precept in Mark, the 2nd chapter, the 22nd verse, which goes right back to Isaiah 24:11, how there is a crying for wine in the streets. So Mark 2:22, and no man put in new wine in old bottles. So that new wine is referencing to the true understanding of this holy word of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. So no man putteth new wine into old bottles, and those old bottles can be likened unto those spiritual dead bodies when you read Revelation 11 chapter in the 8th verse. And in Ezekiel the 37th chapter, they are known as those dry bones. And that's why it's stated in Proverbs 21:16, the man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. Because if you put that new wine in these spiritual dead bodies, here are the consequences of it. Else the new wine do burst the bottles. So you have a mass majority of our people, they cannot withhold this truth, which is referring to that new wine. And that's why it's stated in Jeremiah 2:13, how they have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out of cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water. And again, that's referring to the true understanding of this holy word. So, and the wine is spilled and the bottles will be marred, but new wine must be put into new bottles. Which links up with 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, any man be in Yahushua, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. All things are become new. So going back to Isaiah 24:11, there's a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. So the future of this place, America, is dark. And that's why it says in Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, of how those that look out of the windows be darkened. So let's get this same verse within the NLT. And it says, mobs gather in the streets crying out for wine. Joy has turned to gloom. Gladness has been banished or exiled from the land. So these times that we are coming into, as none should be like it, referring to the times of Jacob's trouble, joy has turned to gloom and gladness has been banished from the land. And that's why recently you keep seeing within the news how these different corporations are laying off a large numbers of their employees. Or some corporations are closing down. So these modern Babylonians are facing hard economic woes. And that's why you're seeing within the news just this past month, which was October 2022, how the U.S. national debt has topped over $31 trillion for the very first time. And this is all done by design by the powers that be so they can intentionally crash this American economy and transition it into a central bank digital currency. So the U.S. national debt is over $31 trillion. Let's get there in the prophecy in Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, start at verse 6. Should not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long? And to him that laid it himself with thick clay. And that thick clay goes into his depth. And just within this past month, America has made a grim financial milestone. So as I brought up within this article, how Disney is on the verge of a financial collapse is only foreshadowing things of what's coming to America, known as Babylon the Great, because America is on the verge of a financial collapse too. So the point that I made earlier, how when someone visits Disney, they are in high spirits looking for amusement, because Disney can be likened unto the land of Mirth. It's the same scenario when someone travels from another country visiting America. They are looking for a carefree, joyous, pleasant time, because America is likened unto that land of Mirth too. And you can see through the spirit that Yahweh Ba'al Shemashah is not with this place America, because he's reducing that vibration of mirth day by day. And on top of that, the Most High is causing that spirit of sorrow within their so-called holiday season, which is high-level Satanism. So within this so-called holiday season, the time frame that these people are supposed to be in the spirit of merriment, the Most High is turning the vibration of this place into the spirit of mourning. Let's get right quick in the prophecy, 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter and the 12th verse. Egypt, which is codified as America, shall mourn, which means that these Americans are going to be in that spirit of grief, sorrow of heart, perplexity, uncertainty, and the list goes on. Remember, those that look out their windows should be darkened. So it's no bright future for these Americans. So Egypt should mourn, and the foundation of it should be smitten with the plague and punishment that Yahweh Ba'al Shemashah should bring upon it. That's going into all these biblical prophecies that's going to coerce America for its great fall. And for the ones of us who are in the know, we are looking for these divine prophecies to take place within these last days. And it takes me to Ezekiel, the 2nd chapter, and the 9th verse. And when I looked, behold, an hand was sent unto me, and lo, a roll of a book was therein. And that roll of a book is referring to the Holy Bible. Verse 10, and he spread it before me, and it was written within and without, and there was written therein lamentations and mourning and woe. And these different terms, such as lamentations, mourning, and woe, are the total opposite of mirth, which is a spirit that the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel are not going to be in within these last days. Because according to the book of Ecclesiastes, the 7th chapter and the 4th verse, the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. And as you can see from this article title again, Disney is on the verge of financial collapse, leaked memo reveals. And this is nothing but a forewarning of what's coming to the city of confusion in totality, America. So I'll brought this out. You all was edified. You all stay strong. Keep pushing forward. Shalom.